So there is no doubt that when Five Nights at Freddy's fan games are mentioned, that Five Nights at Candy's is the first one that comes to mind. Today we will be exploring the trilogy of Five Nights at Candy's. Five Nights at Candy's, abbreviated to Fnac, is a 2015 horror-themed point-and-click adventure game by Emil A. Smacko. Not only was it the first game released, but it also takes place after the events of Five Nights at Candy's 3, meaning it is chronologically the second game in the series. Similarly to Five Nights at Freddy's, the game will start off by showing a newspaper where there is a job offer for a place called Candy's Burgers and Fries, which you will take. I will be talking about every night through to night 6 only, as after this, on night 7, it is only a custom night that lets you mess around with the AI of the animatronics. The game takes place in 1987, around the time FNAF 2 takes place. From what can be seen on the calendar, the game takes place from November 16th, 1987 to November 20th, 1987. The 6th and custom nights then take place on November 21st and 22nd. You play as Mary Schmidt, who is also a worker at the robot factory. The current lineup of animatronics are Candy, Cindy, Chester, Blank, and the Penguin. These animatronics are friendly to children, but act creepily to adults, similarly like the animatronics in FNAF 2. I am playing the remastered version of this game, so it will look a lot more polished. As you can see, you are placed in an office where you have 2 doors and a window. You can close both doors and the window, as this will be a problem later on into the game. As usual, the first night starts off slightly peaceful, as the phone guy will explain to you how everything works. In order to view the place through the cameras properly, you need to activate the night vision mode, but keep in mind that this takes up power. The threat for the first night is Cindy, who will attempt to attack you through the right door and can be seen on the cameras by her glowing eyes. Night 1 is very basic, so as soon as 6 AM reaches, you are in the clear. After each night, a cutscene will be seen, which we will be diving into each one as it leads us on through the story. After the first night, we are able to look through the cameras where we are able to see Vinny in what appears to be a robot factory. In Fnac 1, Vinny, like his normal counterpart in FNAF 2, bears a white face, but unlike his counterpart, has a sad facial expression. He has dark purple lines down his mask and blue blush cheeks, as opposed to the original's red blush. Vinny's lips are also blue, which gives Vinny an overall gloomy feel, especially with the frown. He will very creepily stare into the camera, where the feed will end. Now we have reached night 2, where you will see that more animatronics are now on the hunt for you. Chester is a chimpanzee animatronic carrying a red banjo, but unlike Candy and Cindy, he doesn't have cheeks. He also has green overalls on his body, but does not have any other accessories like a bow or tie. In terms of how far threats go, you will now have to defend yourself from Candy also. Close the doors when you see their eyes glowing in any of them. Other than that, that is about it for the second night. The cutscene starts with a screen saying Error 6F4A95 and no video input. You can hear some girls laugh and noises in the background of assembly machine noises, signifying that twins had died moments before. After this, the video feed is back on, showing the blood around the endoskeleton parts on the belt. Shortly after, the cutscene ends. From night 3 and onward, Old Candy, the Penguin, and Blank the animatronic will activate. Candy, Cindy, and Chester are a bit more active. Old Candy will rarely attack, but if he does attack, he won't attack again. The nights are starting to get a lot more intense, so what I will advise is that you look closely at cameras 11, 6, and 4, whilst avoiding camera 5 completely. As soon as you see Blank has left, close the window before looking at cam 5, or you won't have time and he'll smash through the window and get you. After night 3 has been completed, you will get another cutscene as usual. The cutscene starts showing the same bloody conveyor belt, but with police tapes around the place and numbers near the parts, signifying that an investigation has started. If the player turns left, the player will see Vinny twitching his head. If the player turns right and left again, Vinny will get closer, similar to the first cutscene, however his head will twitch. Turning to the right will result in the end of the cutscene. Thankfully, I can say that in Night 4, there are no added animatronics, however the animatronics that are already attacking will be a lot more active. I would like to bring up the importance of the phone call in this night, as the phone guy mentions. Quote unquote, we had an old animatronic version of Candy, before we got these shiny new ones. Anyways, he was supposed to be out of commission ever since he was involved in this incident with a customer. An adult customer, luckily not a child. Not that the children aren't safe here, that's not what Anyway, our technician has tried to fix him up for some time, and he wants me to warn you that Old Candy might start walking around as well. He should be in parts and service, that's camera 10 I believe. Keep a real good eye on him, he's quite big, so just be careful around him. That's all, keep up the good work. Oh, and I heard you took the day shift offer. Unlike the other animatronics, Old Candy does not have glowing eyes when he appears at either side of the doors, so you'll have to listen to a sound cue or see him through the cameras. The second game will explain the story behind Old Candy, I promise. The cutscene at the end of the night shows freshly made Candy and Cindy on the conveyor belt sitting. If the player turns left, he will see Vinny pointing at Candy and Cindy. Once the player turns right and again left, Vinny will be gone. However, if the player turns to the right again, Candy and Cindy will be looking at the player with strange eyes in their regular eyes. Shortly after, the cutscene ends. Now it is time to look at Night 5. At this stage, all animatronics but the rat are aggressive and will at least try to attack once. On Cam 9 in the later hours of the night, the rat can be seen coming out of his room, but he is not yet active. This night requires quick reaction and good concentration, as the slightest hiccup could significantly decrease your chance of making it through the night. The second phone call received in this night sounds to the player very much like unintelligible grumbling, similar to the fifth night's phone call in Five Nights at Freddy's. Once again, I will suggest that you keep your eye out, especially on cameras 11, 6, and 4. Upon beating Night 5, the player receives a paycheck for $100.50 made out to Mary Schmidt, dated November 20th, 1987, featuring the shadow of the rat. This unlocks the 6th night and adds 1 star to the main menu screen. Night 6 is the 6th night playable in Five Nights at Candy's. On this night, all the animatronics are active. Do what you did in nights 3 to 5, but you must now be more watchful when checking your doors and cameras due to the rat becoming active. Watch closely because it's easy to miss the rat in the camera feeds, as he's often well hidden. Just like in the original FNAF, the phone guy will question why you are there. After beating Night 6, the player will be able to see Mary Schmidt overtime check, now without the rat's shadow, but with the reflection of Candy the cat. It will also grant the player their 2nd star in the main menu and a Candy the cat plush in the office. It's worth to note that this cutscene starts with screen loading record instead of loading feed, since the cutscene takes place 23 years before. The cutscene appears to take place a few hours before the Night 5 cutscene. The cutscene shows Rat, Old Candy, and Blank laying on the conveyor belt. After a few moments, Rat moves and starts to get up. He stands up and walks to the right of the screen. After a few moments, he appears right in front of the camera with possessed eyes, and the cutscene ends. Now let's talk about Five Nights at Candy's 2 and how the story will evolve from this game on out. Five Nights at Candy's 2 is the 2nd installment in the Five Nights at Candy's series. It takes place after the first game and was released on February 28, 2016. Despite being the 2nd game in the franchise, Five Nights at Candy's 2 is actually chronologically the 3rd game in the series, making it a sequel to Five Nights at Candy's and Five Nights at Candy's 3. Fnac 2 is centered around a 17-year-old girl who loses a bet to friends and had to spend 5 nights in a factory that houses improved versions of the animatronics from the first game that are all broken and fractured. The gameplay is similar to that of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, where you must use noises to lure the animatronics away from you or prevent them from getting into the vents, also by playing noises. Instead of being in the office, you are instead placed in Robotics Corp Factory in the central hall. In addition, some phone icons are added that allow you to attract the animatronics. This works if they enter the vents or are close. If they keep them on for a long time, they can fail and you have to wait for them to work again. You can use a flash camera which will allow you to see the long corridor in the background. Similarly to the first game, the only threat that you will face during the first night is Cindy. This will allow you to feel the gameplay and only makes you focus on one animatronic. I personally love the new gameplay, how it completely changes from the first game. A tutorial will also be presented for you when you play the game for the first time, which allows new players to learn the ropes. What also changes is that each night after you have paused, you will no longer get a cutscene. Instead, there is a minigame that can be played that is very similar to the ones that are given in FNAF 2 and 3. Let's take a look at the first minigame after the first night. Starting from the secondary party room, the player controls Chester to wander around the restaurant to find the golden key sitting in the office. The first frame upon entering the office shows new Vinny standing on the other side of the room, but he immediately disappears. The key can be used to unlock the large padlock on the door, not on the first game's map where the rat starts from. Walking up to the door after collecting the key will end the minigame. Night 2 is a second playable night. With it, new Cindy becomes more aggressive this night. With it, Chester also becomes active. For Night 2, do the same as in Night 1, except now you'll have to watch the cameras more often as Chester tries to get into the vents so he can quickly get into the main hall and jump scare you. To avoid this, you can use the phones of the room he is currently in to scare him away from the vent. The fact that Chester will run and just turn into a huge blur on the camera will always be funny to me. Other than those 2 animatronics, that is about it for this night. Starting from parts and services, the player controls the penguin to search the restaurant for 3 broken pieces of Chester, an arm, a leg, and his head. Chester's former curtained location is now blocked off by a strip of yellow and black caution tape. The player can only collect 1 piece at a time before returning it to a cardboard box at their starting point. Blank the animatronic can be found sitting inactive in the drawing room but cannot be interacted with. Returning the 3rd piece of Chester will end the minigame. Night 3 is the third playable night. This night introduces Withered New Candy and Withered Penguin. This night introduces an obstacle to using the cameras in the form of the Withered Penguin, whose face will randomly appear taking up the entire camera screen. If the player does not click away fast enough, the camera feed will crash and it will take several seconds to restart, during which the player cannot lure animatronics out of the central hall or deter Wither or Chester from a vent. I always found it neat how the penguin kind of acts like a quote-unquote virus which will interfere with your camera feed completely. Players must be more vigilant starting tonight, as there are now multiple wandering animatronics to contend with who can act in a tag team fashion. For example, if Withered Candy is approaching the player through the central hall and the player rings a phone in the peripheral room to lure him away, Withered New Cindy may instead go and disable the phone, leaving Withered Candy's progression towards the player uninterrupted. If players are not vigilant, they may not realize they are still in danger. Starting from the drawing room, the player controls blank to search the restaurant for 4 pages that, upon picking them up, are shown as children's drawings of their experiences at Candy's Burger and Fries. The chairs have changed colour from red to green, and Jester's curtains have been removed completely. A new table having been moved into the room after viewing the 4th collected drawing, the minigame will end. Night 4 is the 4th playable night. All characters are active in this night except Withered Blank, Withered Rat, and Withered Cat. As usual, the animatronics are much more aggressive, so you need to check on their movements a lot more often. Just please be sure to not let the animatronics disable the phones, as this may allow Chester to sneak in. Other than that, Night 4 should be an easy breeze. I feel that this game out of the trilogy is the easiest, and I was able to complete this first time around with 0 deaths, including the 20 mode also. Let's talk about the minigame that is played after Night 4. Starting from beside the main stage, the player controls New Cindy to search the restaurant to find New Candy's tie. Blank can again be found in the drawing room. Returning to New Candy after collecting the tie will end the minigame. Night 5 is the 5th playable night. This night introduces Withered Blank. Now I will be honest and say that I have no idea how Blank works, except for the fact that he is a lot more aggressive and that the phones can track him also. By this night, all normal animatronics are now active: Withered New Candy, Withered New Cindy, Withered Chester, Withered Penguin, and now Withered Blank. As there are now 3 wandering animatronics to contend with, the player must be very fast and careful if no one is spotted in the central hall, as up to half of the phones may be unusable due to the other characters already standing in peripheral rooms, who would disable that room's phone before it can lure the animatronic out of the hall, forcing the player to take more time to find an empty room. Withered Penguin will appear more frequently on this night and crash the cameras, forcing a several second restart during which the player is completely vulnerable. This night ends with the player being shown a news clipping from August 2007 announcing that Robotics Corp Factory has been scheduled for demolition and explains its history of fatal accidents. Now it is time for the final night, Night 6. It introduces Rat and the Cat. On this night, only Rat and the Cat will be active. Like with the Chester, the cat will sometimes try to climb into the vents, but there's also Rat, who can sometimes be caught staring right into the camera and crashing the security system like with the Penguin. To avoid this, use the same tactics like you did with Chester, scaring the cat away by using the telephone in the corresponding room, and the Penguin quickly switching cameras when Rat appears close to the camera. Otherwise, both Rat and the Cat will move around the building and you can lure them to other rooms by using the phones. This time around, there are 3 minigames to be played in order to unlock the remainder of the story. Minigame 1. Starting from the main party room, the player controls Old Candy to follow Shadow Candy through the restaurant. The chairs are again red to indicate the time period, though a lone table still sits in the secondary party room without Chester's curtain, this likely being set before Chester was added to the restaurant. Shadow Candy is followed through Main Hall 1, then to the secondary party room and into parts and services. Inside, Shadow Candy has disappeared and the player will find a technician working at a table. Upon approaching, the technician will turn around in surprise and rush over with an unknown tool. Reaching Old Candy will end the minigame. Minigame 2. Starting in the drawing room, the player controls a notably cleaner, unbroken Blank to collect another set of 5 children's drawings scattered throughout the restaurant. After leaving the room with the 4th picture, the player is immediately made to view the 5th image, a frightful sketch of Shadow Candy's face. When the player finishes viewing the picture, they will see Shadow Candy standing in front of them and the minigame will end. Minigame 3. Starting from the main party room full of happy children, the player controls Old Candy to wander the restaurant, passing a man standing impatiently in Main Hall 1 and discovering that the secondary party room is blocked off by construction fences, potentially indicating the installation of Chester's curtain area. Upon following Shadow Candy into the office, they will discover a crying child. Walking over will make the child happy and he will race out. Following him will result in the player discovering the man from before scolding the child. Old Candy will approach the man and the minigame will end. This is the story of Old Candy that I was referring to earlier in the video. Now it is time to tackle the final game in the trilogy Fnac 3. Five Nights at Candy's 3 is the third Five Nights at Candy's game. It is currently the final game of the Mary Schmidt saga, but will be succeeded by Five Nights at Candy's 4, which we will cover after this segment. Chronologically, it is the first game in the series, taking place in 1962. This game is a lot more complex than the others story-wise, with multiple endings and paths that can be taken. Upon opening the game, Vinny will immediately talk to you and confront you about a situation and say that he remembers everything you did and that it is all your fault. The game will then take you to the main menu where you can start the first night. Night 1 is the first playable night in Five Nights at Candy's 3. This night introduces Monster Rat, as well as several functions including the tape recorder, flashlight and bed mechanisms. The origami cat appears in the middle of the dreamscape's bedroom. The origami cat will speak to you and say, "Hello, it's me, I'm the origami cat. How am I here? You are dreaming right now. Sort of, at least. This room you're in is your old room from before you moved, but right now it looks like you barely remember it. You've had a lot of nightmares lately, right? Well, that's why I'm here. I have a couple of tricks for fighting the monsters. Remember a few years ago, you had trouble sleeping almost every night, so your dad gave you a cassette player with a tape with quiet music that he made for you so you could sleep. I bet it would also help you with sleeping better right now. The other thing is, the monsters hate light, so I suggest flashing light in their eyes whenever you can, unless they're under your bed. Listen if they go there. In such a case, peek under the bed to see which side they're at, then go back up and face the opposite direction. Turning your back will lure them out from under the bed. Listen closely to the sound of them peeking out, and then face back to the opposite end of the room again, to give them a good dose of light in their eyes. Now go look for the tape player. I'll stay here if you need my help. After you have located the tape player in the deepscape, the main first night will commence. Listening for Monster Rat's attempts at entering the room is key to winning the first night. Use the tape recorder when Monster Rat is not attempting to enter the room. In other words, keep using the tape recorder until you hear footsteps. Similarly to the second game, after each night there is a minigame. Let's explore the first minigame after the first night. The game will have you walking around the Rat and Cat Theatre. The Rat appears at the back of the building near the backstage area and asks the player to play hide and seek before the show. When the player hides, after the Rat finds you, a jump scare plays and the minigame ends. Night 2 is the second playable night. Night 2 increases the difficulty of Monster Rat's movements and actions. Monster Rat's movements are slightly faster, his combat segments are more strenuous, and managing the tape recorder becomes slightly more tedious. The main difference Night 2 adds is how Monster Rat will now distort the tape recorder when he goes under the bed, so you can't hear when he leans out of the bed. If you can't time when Monster Rat pops out from under the bed, which usually takes about 2 to 3 seconds on average, then you need to quickly stop the tape recorder, chase Monster Rat out from under the bed, and replay it again. Once again, you are at the Rat and Cat Theatre. An actor in the cat's suit appears at the back of the building near the backstage area and asks the player to play hide and seek before the show. When the player hides, a jump scare of the cat plays and the minigame ends. Night 3 increases the difficulty of the Monster Rat and introduces the Monster Cat into the game. Much like Nights 1 and 2, Monster Rat will come from the hallway, closet and or dresser, and you must flash your light in them in order to keep them at bay. If they get in the room, continuously flash the light in their face until they go under the bed. However, this night features the introduction of the Monster Cat. He will come from either the far left or far right side of the bed at random intervals. He will slowly get closer until he attacks you. Shining the flashlight on them will make them hide for the time being. You can also tell when Monster Cat reappears due to their subtle breathing. Their breathing becomes louder the closer they get to you. Note that the Monster Cat can still come out while you're being attacked by the Monster Rat, so always be checking for if he has revealed himself and shine your light in his eyes before the Monster Rat attacks you. The minigame will once again be in the Rat and Cat Theatre, where the Rat will ask you if you want to play hide and seek, where you can hide in the same places as before. When the Rat catches you, the minigame will end. While Night 4 doesn't add anything new gameplay-wise, it increases Monster Rat and Monster Cat's difficulty significantly. Monster Cat will creep out of hiding from the far left and far right side of the room much faster. Monster Rat will move faster from door to door. His combat is much more difficult, by a fair margin. And Monster Rat will continue to distort the tape recorder when he goes under the bed. However, Monster Rat will attack you much faster than other nights when he peeks out from under the bed, so if you don't have very fast reflexes, it'll make the night much harder. Other than that, nothing very difficult or game-changing happens on this night. The minigame will once again have you play with Cat, hide and seek, and now we move on into the 5th night. Night 5 increases Monster Rat and Monster Cat's difficulty more than any other night. This is the final night that Monster Cat will attack the player for the entirety of the rest of the game. Monster Rat is much faster when moving from door to door, and combat with him is much more difficult. He will continue to distort the tape recorder if it is playing, and will kill you extremely quickly when he pops out from under the bed. Nothing else will change for tonight. The minigame for this night is the most important of all. Everybody is waiting to play hide and seek together with the Rat. As there is no more space, you will stumble into the forbidden backroom. This is where Mary will face her biggest trauma. Hiding in the closet, Rat will appear and call for you. Vinny will appear and confront Rat as he is intoxicated, and after a small fight, Rat will hit the table and die. Cat will approach and offer to call the police, but out of fear, Vinny chokes him out and leaves. Now it is time for the 6th night / final night. At the beginning, Vinny will once again approach you and talk to you, blaming you about everything that had happened that day. It was all your fault, and because of what you did, he will never allow you to sleep again. Monster Vinny acts exactly the same as Monster Rat, except Monster Vinny moves much faster and takes more time to chase under the bed. He'll try to avoid your light by moving his head in a 360-degree circle rather than Monster Rat's triangular movement pattern, and will actively walk around the room, making shining your light into his eyes much more difficult. Also, Monster Vinny will not distort your tape recorder when he goes under the bed. Occasionally, Monster Vinny will laugh much similar to that of Nightmare Fredbear from FNAF 4. This has no purpose other than ambience. Monster Cat has been removed from the night entirely, and Monster Vinny doesn't pick up this role as he does for the Monster Rat. When you have beaten Vinny, which let me say is really difficult, you'll once again appear in the closet where you were hiding, where you can now leave and run outside to your parents. The game will then show you a report on Mary and how her therapy has been going after the very traumatizing experience at the theatre that day. I think the main question on our minds right now is, where is Five Nights at Candy's 4? Fnac 4 was initially revealed in 2020 with official posts on GameJolt with various other pictures that I will include on this part of the video. As described, Fnac 4 is going to be a point-and-click adventure just like Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. There was a sort of teaser that was put on YouTube by Emil Mako. It shows some sort of transmission that is coming through regarding the animatronics, similar to the one from sister location. I completely understand that games are hard to make, so I will be excitedly waiting for its release.